too different from that. So what I'll do is, first of all, let me just walk everyone through what is the topic, what are we going to do, how is it going to flow, and so on. And then I'll just take you through the slides as well. So this time the next session is going to be on building emotional intelligence. Unlike the previous sessions, this is not based on any schema-based development and stuff. So it's a little bit more theoretical than some of the schema-based stuff that we've been doing. Also, this is one of those topics that is often very very misunderstood, and people have their own very random ideas about this. So this session particularly is a little bit heavier in theory than some of the others were. So typically we would have maybe 2 hours of activities. Right over here, it's about 1 hour 15 minutes. So it's about 2.5 hours of like presentation and those sort of things. So initially what we'll start off with is just like a quick introduction where we have some we have this quick activity in terms of what kind of emotions you can spot and that sort of stuff. We're going to give a quick introduction to what we've done and what kind of agenda they can expect from the next 3-4 hours, the usual stuff in our introductory address. Then we have a quick activity where we're going to play a video, and we're going to ask these guys to just type in what are the emotions that they're seeing coming out in that video, and they're just going to do this on the Teams chat. So you don't need to do anything special for this activity, but just the idea is that get people to kind of talk about how many different emotions are coming out in that video. The next section is on emotional triggers, which is really explaining the science and the biology of emotions, as to where it comes from, why does it happen, and why do people have kind of stark reactions to things and so on. That said, this, like I said, is getting into the science of things. So, I mean, if you need to go over this a bit quicker, that's fine, because it is pretty, like, it talks about like the amygdala and what it does and how it hijacks your brain and all that sort of stuff. So kind of just skim through this. Don't spend too much time talking about the science of this. What's important is this section, right? Understanding intelligence, which is where we're going to spend about 15 minutes just kind of explaining the concept of what is emotional intelligence. You can use this time to also engage with the crowd on what they think is emotional intelligence, what are some of the common misconceptions, and that sort of stuff. But largely we'll be covering what it is, why it's important, why as leaders they need to know emotional intelligence, and so on. What we'll also be doing prior to the workshop is running a emotional intelligence survey, right? So hopefully most of these guys who are coming in would have already completed that survey before coming into the workshop, and there is a quick debrief on some of the scores, right? So if you have this score, that means you're low on emotional intelligence. These are some of the things you need to do, and so on, right? So just so that they have like a kind of a quick spot assessment of themselves and where they stand on emotional intelligence. Then we have a quick break. And then we come back to the first like really big theoretical part of things, which is the 5 components of emotional intelligence, and breaking down each of those components and really explaining what each of those components mean. This, like I said, is full theory. The slides have very detailed facilitator notes, so you can refer to them. And as usual, if you want to add your own examples, you're free to do so, no problem about that. Then we have a pretty long simulation activity, just like we've done for influencing and the one before that. To walk you through the simulation, we'll have Ambika or Drashti take over after we're done going through the slides right now. So let's just pause on that, but there is a big simulation activity that's going to happen. And then the next part, which is again the big part of theory, is around how do you build emotional intelligence in teams, right? So what does it mean to have emotionally intelligent team and so on, right? So there are a few norms, and you need to just kind of explain those norms for building emotionally intelligent teams. And then finally, we have like open house for questions and like a quick closing activity, right? So really to summarize, there are, I think, three sections where we really need to talk through the theory pretty clearly. One is on understanding emotional intelligence. Why is it important? Second is on explaining the 5 components of emotional intelligence. And thirdly, it's all about building team emotional intelligence. Right. Other than that, you have breaks, simulations, activities, and stuff like that. There will be a group debrief for the simulation. There is no uh, presentation as such because of the nature of the activity. So it's more about what have you guys learned, what did you guys take away from this, and so on. Before I get into the actual slides, any questions so far?
No.
No.
Okay, perfect. Right, so these are all our standard slides. All of these you just leave to Ambika, Drashti, they'll take care of it. This is our cover page. As usual, give an introduction, introduce your co-facilitators, and call out the names, thank the rest of the crew. Yeah, agenda we've kind of covered, so no point going over here. This is the recap of the previous one, which is around influencing. So here again, there are detailed facilitator notes. You can just read those out for these couple of pages. It mostly covers what they learned and all that stuff. Then we have a quick Slido on, how they have started applying some of the stuff that they've learned earlier and what kind of inputs we're getting. So this is more about just getting their inputs, just kind of making a few statements like a lot of you are doing this very well, and some of you are still got to start working on it. So make a plan and start working on it soon, and so on and so forth, like while it is fresh in your mind, etc., etc. Right. So this is mostly just for engagement. Then we have that video where we're going to play a video and we're going to show you some video snippets, and you have to kind of guess the emotion that the character is displaying, and you need to put in your answers in the MS Teams chat window. After I'm done with this, maybe Ambika and Drashti can just walk you through the video and what is expected, but it's pretty straightforward. Right. Then we start talking about emotional triggers. Here again, like I mentioned, this is really talking about the science of what these triggers are and where they come from. So if you feel it's getting very heavy for the audience, or if you start feeling that they're getting disengaged, you can just kind of quickly skim through this. You don't need to spend too much time on this. Okay. Also, there are quite a few slides which are like, very low on text. So just make sure that you don't spend too much time on these slides, because like they're consciously kept low on text, but you don't need to really spend 2 to 3 minutes on every slide. Right. So there are these 2-3 slides about what is like the whole science behind why these reactions happen and all that stuff. Like I said, kind of walk them through this pretty quickly. Here there is a video that demonstrates some of these emotional triggers. I think we're using something from 3 Idiots. So that should be like a fun video for these guys to watch. So essentially the idea here is just to tell them that, watch the video, see what kind of triggers you can notice, and see where what parts are kind of looking at the trigger, the reaction, and the remorse, and just kind of try to get them to understand this video in the context of what you've just explained to them. Right. This is like a generic 2-3 slides. Right. Coming to the next section, which is all about understanding emotional intelligence. Here you need to spend about maybe 20 minutes to kind of explain this. This is more of like an engagement slide where you can ask the crowd to kind of give in their inputs. I'm assuming a lot of people will give some interesting answers for what is this relationship and why is it different and how are they similar and that sort of stuff. So it should be interesting. Then we have a couple of slides with some definitions and some write-up is there in the facilitator notes. So you just kind of call out what really sets these two apart and why is it important to kind of link these two together. And what does it really mean, right? When both of these things are operating in harmony and stuff like that, right? This is where you kind of just talk to them about how, as a leader, it is very important to have emotional intelligence, and many a time the difference between an average and an extraordinary leader is someone who really understands how to deal with people with differing emotions, different triggers, different reactions, and so on. Coming to the survey outcome, so this this slide will display the results of the survey that people have already taken, right? So you can kind of just talk them through what some of these scores mean and what they need to focus on, right? So this is just so that they have like some quick assessment of where they stand with respect to emotional intelligence. And then we get into a break. Over here, either Ambika or Drashti will come in to just make this statement about getting them to book their peer coaching sessions. Okay, next section is about components of emotional intelligence. So like I said, there are 5 components. Here again, for all of these slides, they're pretty straightforward slides and they have very detailed facilitator notes. So we'll be sharing this with you immediately after this session. So for each of these 5 components, there are again detailed slides with detailed facilitator notes. Here, once again, you are free to add on your own examples as you see fit. That is completely up to you. And we have similar slides for all the 5 components. Right. Then we get into the simulation activity, which will, as usual, be done in breakouts. The details of this activity I'll just skip over for now. Let Ambika and Drashti kind of take you through the activity. Essentially, we are not going to have presentations at the end of this activity, but we are going to have a group debrief, right? So as like you need to maybe take 2-3 minutes to just sum up some of the learnings from the simulation and maybe ask a few people to come forward and share their thoughts and just get a bit of engagement and a bit of conversation going on what they learned, what they thought, what was like a aha moment for them and so on. Right, so this like a quick 10-minute debrief. Don't spend too much time and don't get people to present and stuff like that. That'll take forever. Then we get into another break. Then they come back, and then we have the section on the team emotional intelligence. Again, most of this is pretty straightforward. Like we've said that there are these 3 norms, and for each of these norms there are again detailed slides, and in all of these for all of these norms there are again detailed facilitator notes. And once again, if you want to give some examples over and above what is in the facilitator notes, more than welcome to do so. And yeah, and that's pretty much it. I mean, that's like we close the session with open house for questions. Do a quick summary of what they've learned, just sharing some memories from what has happened so far. So this is the last webinar of Sprint 1. So over here, you need to congratulate them on having successfully completed Sprint 1, and here are some of the memories. And if you have any memories with, like, just share them with us. and they can probably post it on the chat window or something like that, right? And this is another bit of a quick, since we've just covered like emotional intelligence, parting activity on emotions. So like just tell them just ask them to tell us how they feel, and that's it. That's the end of the session. So yeah, any questions or any doubts so far?
You're just going to give us some information about the simulation, right?
Yeah. So, but nothing about the deck, right? Anything
No,
you need
deck
to.
is
Okay.
Deck
It's
is
actually
fine. It was
yeah,
quite
I mean,
straightforward. Yeah.
it's very straightforward, and I mean by now you are all veterans at it. So, okay. So Ambika, Drashti, will one of you just take over on the simulation?
Yes, Aditya. I'm just going to share my screen. Let me know when you can see.
Yes, it's visible, Ambika.
Okay, all right. So these are the screenshots of the simulation, and what we will do is after this call, we are just going to share the credentials so you can log in and go through the whole simulation. In this, the participants will have to answer certain, and they'll have to go through certain scenario situations, maybe around 22 to 27 situations. And at maybe after around 5 to 6 scenarios, they'll also get a kind of a report on how they're doing. There are around 8 to 9 context slides which we will have to take them through to build to the actual target. Um, what we do is we first introduce their role, which in this case is the marketing manager of a private sector bank, and this role is reporting directly to the CMO. Then we introduce the team that reports to this role. We go through each one of them and the experience and what is the role, what are some of the traits of the team that reports into the manager. Then we've just kept a situation that says 360 evaluation, where the manager has gone through, is going through the reports of 360 evaluation that the person has gone through, and he or she realizes that he's very strong in on the technical front or the creative skills aspect, but is the score on emotional intelligence is low, which can possibly hamper his or her promotion next year. So it's important that they start working on this. When you click on let's work on EI, there is another situation that comes up which says that while you are gathering theories, articles on how to improve your EI score, your CMO, the person you report to, asks you to come and meet him immediately. And he tells you during a conversation that there is a product launch that was supposed to happen next year, but now it's happening within the next 6 months. So there's a dilemma whether the person has to focus on performance meeting all the targets, or whether the person should focus on EI. So that's a balance that you need to create. So finally, we introduce their target to them, where we say that given this scenario where you need to focus on your emotional intelligence score as well as the team performance and meeting the deadlines. This is the simulation target, where you need to ensure that your team performance is 90 plus, your team engagement is 90 plus, and your emotional intelligence score also reaches a 90 plus. So that's the target. Is it clear so far? So this is just the basic context.
Yeah, so far. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Then we move on to the first report. So currently the EI score is at a 55. We have 4 months to complete the entire target of meeting all the 3 scores and getting a 90 plus on all 3 of them. And when you click on the summary report, it just gives you a detailed report. That's a team-wise report. So it shows that your team performance is at a 60 and the team engagement is at a 55. And individually also we need to take them through the team scores of each of their team members. Again, very quickly, the important thing to note over here is on slide 9 and on slide 10, you will have to make a note of what is the current score. like the EI score is 55, because when the next report comes up, it will tell you that maybe the score is gone to 60. It will not tell you that there is an increase of 5. So that's something that you need to voice over to the participants. So please make note of each of the scores. Just 3 scores that you need to make note of: the EI score, the team performance score, and the team engagement score.
Okay.
Finally, we start off with the simulation, and there'll be different scenarios, as I said, which will be presented to the participants. We might have to maybe initially ask them to speak up, that's unmute and speak, but maybe just in the interest of time, we might have to then ask them to post their answers on chat, like what do they want to choose? Do they want to choose option 1, 2? And maybe we'll have to just decide on the option basis the maximum number of how many participants have selected a particular option. So that's the way it goes. And as I said, after 4 to 5 scenarios, it will give you a report. So if you see here, the EI score is increased from say a 55 to a 58. Now what it shows on this screen is that this is the score that the group has got, that's 58, but you could have scored a 64. So when you go through the simulation in detail, you realize that the options are very close. It's very difficult to judge at some places what would be the best possible approach or the best possible option. And therefore we need to, kind of, because if we had to show only this part, that's okay, you've improved from 55 to 58, they wouldn't know that there was a further scope of improvement. They would just think that the option that they've selected is the right option in all the scenarios, which may not be the case. So therefore we're showing you the ideal versus the actual. And even for the team performance, we might have to just tell them that, okay, fine, you've improved from whatever was your previous score to the new score. But I think the focus has to be on whatever is shown on slide 13, that's the EI score, because that's important. So that's how the simulation progresses for every month. At the end of every month, it shows you a score and then it will show you a final score. So is it clear so far? Because I need to show another Excel sheet, and again that's very important while for the debriefs that you will have to do at the end of every month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to present the Excel sheet. This is something that you will need to maintain throughout the simulation. What you see here is the situation, the options, and there is a color coding. So a red indicates that that was not the right option to select, a green indicates that that was the best option, and the yellow indicates that it was a moderately okay option. So what you need to do is at every stage, after every situation, you just need to highlight the option that was selected by the team. So in some cases, they would have selected the incorrect option, in some cases a moderately okay, in some cases the worst case option. At the end of every month, when the report is thrown up, you might want to tell them that, okay, your score is 54, but you could have been a 64, and why aren't you at that 64? Because possibly you selected an incorrect answer. So that's the reason you'll have to keep a track of this. And there are also some remarks given on why a particular option is the right or the wrong option. We have also linked it to the competency, that's the framework that Aditya just took you through, on whether it's linked to empathy or whether it's linked to self-regulation, self-awareness. This is just additional information in case you want to use, but I think this will be important because they'll definitely want to know why have they not scored the ideal score, like where did they go wrong. So I think we need to take a pause at different stages at the simulation to tell them what they could have done better. So yeah, so that's about it on this. So what we will do is we will send the credentials, so you can go to the whole simulation. We'll also send this Excel sheet to you, which, as I said, has to be maintained throughout the simulation. Any questions so far?
So Ambika, we will highlight the choices that they have chosen in any color of our choice, right? And just to let them know to keep track or whatever. And do you need that highlighted thing back with to you? Does it need to be emailed back or something? Okay.
No. This is just so that you remember, because in some cases there might be 5 or 6 situations and then there is a report that's shown, so it'd be difficult for you to remember what were the choices. So just to make your life simple, we've just like created this and you can just highlight it and then backtrack.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question?
So this is a part of the debrief, right? After they have done it.
No, so this will happen at every stage of the simulation.
At every
Because
stage.
like we said, there are 4 months for them to achieve their targets. At the end of every month, there'll be a report that will be thrown, which will tell you the ideal versus the actual score. At that point of time, you might want to take a pause for like 30 seconds to a minute, and just let them know what they could have done better.
So we can do this at the end of each month's score, right? Just to reflect. How many questions usually will come for a month? Around 5, 6 or more?
Yeah, 5 or 6 questions. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So that's about it on the simulation. Also, there is the first video that Aditya was talking about, where Nandita, would you want to present your screen and just play the video?
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Okay. So this is a very simple game. We're going. There are 4 emotions in that video: happy, sad, angry, and scared. So we show parts of the video, then we pause the video and we ask them to post on the chat what is the emotion that they felt is coming out through that part of the video that they have seen, and then we move to the next emotion and so on.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, Nandita. So what we do is, when there's this 3, 2, 1, we will pause the video and then we'll ask them to post on the chat what is the emotion that they think is coming out. And that's what we'll do for all the other emotions, that's sad, angry, and scared. So this emotion was happy. We'll do the same thing for scared. Yeah. We can pause it, Nandita. Yeah. So that's what we'll be doing for the rest of the video. This is just to make sure that they start participating from the very start of the session. You can watch the remaining video. We've already included the link. The second video, again, it's a small video from 3 Idiots. Again, you can have a look at it, and then, yeah, so that's about it actually. Aditya, anything else?
Do you want me to present the 3 Idiots video as well, Ambika, or that's fine?
No, that's fine.
No, I mean, nothing from my end, unless there are any questions on the simulation or anything of note that you want the facilitators to know. Or if there are any doubts in general on anything about the session.
So the PPT deck you will be sharing, and along with a link for the simulation, right? And
Yes.
These videos.
Yes.
So we'll have time over the weekend to go through it, right? Because it's starting early next week. So I guess we have the weekend to prepare.
Yes. I'll share it with you maybe in an hour or so.
Okay. Sure, of course.
Okay. Also, just one last thing is that on the simulation, we have a person who would be mapped to you, who would be presenting the screen and maintaining the scores in terms of the participation. But as I mentioned, the facilitation and maintaining this particular Excel sheet, that responsibility lies with you.
Okay. Also, Aditya, just for my understanding, so how does this fit in the entire journey? Because, so there are schemas for each aspects of leadership journey. And
Yeah.
how does this fit in? So, and if, someone wants to get some
essentially the first sprint is all about self leadership, team leadership, and like the best way to kind of lead teams. So which is why it was all about influencing, inspirational leadership, and all of that stuff, and therefore we're ending with emotional intelligence, and particularly the the concept of being emotionally intelligent yourself, as well as how do you build emotionally intelligent teams.
Okay.
The next sprint is going to be all about leading business. So that's going to be much more focused on building strategies, executing strategies, collaborating with stakeholders, agile thinking, digital mindsets, and so on.
Fair enough. So, so the messaging that we could give to them is that now you have all the wherewithal through that the sessions that you had in sprint 1. Now couple it with emotional intelligence, EI, and then you are good to go on this front.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
If they have any questions on when sprint 2 starts, do we have any answers that we commonly want to give?
No, not really, because that is
something is being worked out.
Just say still has to be finalized, and we'll get back.
Okay.
Okay, so I think if there's nothing else, we can close the session. And of course, if you later think of doubts, you can always message any of us, and we'll be happy to take your questions.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, great. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.